What's going on, guys? Today is the day. Mini's ready, we have insurance on it, it's plated, it's ready to go. So in the previous video, I showed you guys what we had wrong with the Mini engine. In today's video, I'm gonna be getting this thing basically ready for the road. So I have the fuel pump fuse to put back in because we removed it when we did the initial turn on, let's say, where we cycled the engine, got the oils moving, and got that all ready. So that's all awesome. So the fuel pump fuse needs to go back in, and then afterwards we need to install spark. So we had no fuel, no spark, so fuel is gonna be covered. Spark is up top here. So we're gonna be installing new coil packs, new spark plugs, and we're gonna be able to torque all that stuff down, and then knock on wood, it should fire right up. I have the battery tender hooked up to the car right now, so it's been charging. So nothing really should be stopping us if everything went well. Now, I'm not gonna hold my breath on it, but today could be the day. Let's get started. Moving into the passenger footwell area, you'll find this little fuse panel here on the side. Now, if you'll take note, fuse number 43, right over here, you can see that that's the fuel pump fuse, and it's a 20 amp fuse. We removed this with some needle nose pliers. So all that needs to be done now is reinserted back into fuse location number 43. Once you line it up, just push, and once it's flush with the other ones, you'll know it's properly installed. Next up comes installing these brand new NGK spark plugs. Now I went with these ones right here, part number 1422. Now I bought these specifically for my engine build. These are a colder plug versus the standard ones that come equipped on these Minis. So what we're gonna be doing is moving to the engine bay, and we're gonna be installing each one of these 4 plugs down in here. So if you guys are swapping out your spark plugs, if you're removing the OEM ones, you're going to need a 12-point spark plug socket. So you can see this right here. This is not a regular 6-point. You need this to remove each one of the spark plugs, because you can see here that these have extra teeth on them. So if you guys take them out, you'll need this tool. But if you guys are installing these new plugs here, you can use a regular 6-point, like what I have here. So you can see that this is a regular 6-sided hex socket. So I'll be using one of these, but if you guys have this tool from when you remove the old plugs, you can use this when you reinstall these. So be sure to torque these up to the proper manufacturer spec. Last but not least, when I'm installing the coil packs that are found in here onto the new spark plugs, I'm gonna be putting a little bit of dielectric grease on top of here so that I know that next time I can remove the plugs without having to really yank on them, because sometimes these things do corrode. So that's why I'll be putting a little bit of this stuff on, then finally using this socket, tightening each one of these and securing them in place with a torque wrench to 17 foot-pounds. Now you don't need to gap them, they come pre-gapped. So as long as you don't drop them or damage them, when you take them out of the package, you can torque them up and they're ready to go. Next up, we need to lower the car on the ground, torque each one of the wheels, and then we should in theory be able to fire this thing up. So, we're almost there. So with the Mini now on the ground, you have to torque each one of the lug nuts up to 103 plus or minus 7 foot-pounds of torque. It's a German spec, whatever. So I'm just doing 103, calling it a day, and then we'll be able to take this thing for a spin. Okay guys, so off camera, off of the live camera, what I'm doing right now is just checking the voltage because it seems like the battery is dead. Now I do have the charger hooked up to it. Right now we are getting 13.5 volts. So that's with the charger on. Now I'm gonna go back to the charger, flick this off, and this is gonna give us a good representation as what the battery's voltage is. So this should be above, let's say 12.6-ish for a healthy battery. Okay. It's almost there. So I'm just gonna let this sit on the charger for a little bit more, and then I'll fire it up. Alrighty guys, so this is pretty much the next day. I bought a new spark plug tester. So I tried to put it in between the coil pack and the spark plug, but the issue was that because of this cable being so short right here, I wasn't able to use them. But what I did do is I removed the headlight on the passenger side. There's a little ground that's found underneath here. You can kind of see it in there. It's a ground that goes from the passenger mount to the chassis. So I removed that, cleaned up the paint, and basically scuffed it up so that I had a little bit of paint on there before. There isn't now anymore. I also went ahead and removed the entire wiring harness that's found on top of the engine, followed it all the way to the ECU, unplugged everything in here, cleaned everything up, and I basically tried to see if there was anything that was not really connected properly. Everything honestly seemed fine, but when I did move all this stuff, I pushed down on here just to wiggle this cap off, and I heard something turn on. So it sounded like it was either a fuel pump or just some sort of other electrical component. It started moving. So when I reinstalled everything back on the car, I went in the car to crank it, and it did sound like it wanted to start. It was almost 11 o'clock at night, which means that if I was to start this up last night, I would have woken up all my neighbors. So that's why we're doing it today. It's daytime, time to start this thing up. That's good. Ooh. Guys, it runs. Woo! You can tell that the alignment's kind of off, but it's driving. So for this first little bit, I cannot beat on it as much as I would like to. Oh, I just got to check engine light. What is that about? Feels like it's in limp mode right now. But this is a start. Okay guys, so this is awesome news. The Mini works, the Mini runs. There's guaranteed gonna be some fine tuning that needs to be done with this thing, but for the most part, it seems to be okay. And it sounds so dirty. When you're idling, you hear so much backfiring, you hear the turbo so much. The ABS is kicking in. Not entirely sure why. But I need to figure all this out. Yeah, it's gonna be fun when I get this thing going. So I need to break this in. I need to drive 1,500 kilometers total for the break-in procedure. But what it means right now is that I need to drive it a little bit, not too hard. I need to drive it up hills, down hills, and do that for 300 kilometers. Then do an oil change to see, basically if we have any metal particulates or anything that's inside the engine oil. So I need to drain the engine oil, take a look at the filter, and find out, if everything's working the way it's supposed to. So I should see little shavings in the oil, but nothing too severe. Yo, those backfires. Oh, that sounds good. So I'm gonna bring the car home in a little bit after I drive it, get everything warmed up. It looks like I have a couple codes. Shouldn't be too difficult. We have the Mini going, so the hard part is out of the way. It drives. There's gonna be a little bit of fine tuning, but I mean, all in all, she works, she runs. That is in normal mode at 2,000 RPMs. This is gonna be insane when it's broken in with my aftermarket tune and me beating on it. Oh, that's dirty. pretty normal. Nothing seems to be really broken. My super heavy duty clutch that's rated for 500 torque is more than good enough for this, and it doesn't feel aggressive at all. The coilovers, they're a little stiff. I probably have to tune those a little bit. Probably gonna change up the dampening on them. As for everything else, like it drives normal. It doesn't feel like this has been completely built and basically molested. So I know it doesn't have all the same characteristics as stock, so it's not quiet. It isn't comfortable, let's say, but it isn't aggressive by any means. So I'm gonna have to be playing around with this a little bit. I'm gonna be doing an oil change soon, but the Mini drives, I would love to beat on it and go into boost, but I know that for the first little bit I can't, only so that the motor gets broken in. If it was a matter of sending it, oh boy, you know I would. But you know, this is pretty much where this video is gonna be ending. Guys, it's come a long way. I can't thank you guys enough for being patient. There's gonna be so many more videos about this coming out soon, so be sure to stay following me. If you aren't subscribed, consider doing it, because we've got some pretty fun stuff coming out for this thing. So it's drivable now. Now comes all the fun stuff where we get to beat on it. Yeah, this thing should be faster than my Z. We'll see. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any further questions, comment section's down there. You know what to do. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.